The Apostatic Union is the last bastion of sense in this broken world. They are committed to stamping out the remnants of god worship and cultism. Only human-made magic is permitted in the Union. Welcome to another video of Dread Delusion lore, a video series where I break down the various lore details of the game Dread Delusion. Today you may be starving, but there should be a shipment coming in. Eventually. Sit back and let me tell you about the ones protecting you from Wiccan dominance, and breaking the collar of your neighbor who is found with a very naughty book. The Apostatic Union is primarily broken into three groups. For now, I'll give a basic summary of the Union's origin. If you wish to skip to a particular segment, I will have timestamps in the description. Now, the Union is formed about half a century before the prisoner is sent against the Dark Star Fortress. The nations of the Union can trace themselves back 400 years to the days of being feudal kingdoms, allied to the Wiccans and their gods. After the world rend and slaughter of the Emberians, the people of the Sky Realms were brought under the boot of the Wiccans and their gods. Gifts from the gods always came at a price, and even then their dealings were handled through the Wiccan covens. These covens handled everything, involving cipher magic. The polymaths of the universities, namely the Erudite Academy, realized that humanity would never reach its peak under the control of Wiccan dominance. Thus, four nations banded together to form the Union and kick off the God War. The four nations are as follow. Vena, a diplomatic hub that's primary city, Riova, has become the capital of the Union. Lundel is a windswept land with castles and great plains. It sounds the most similar to the surface during its feudal age, before the world rend. Bayonne is a land of culture with its fine arts and finer wines. Respected universities reside in this kingdom. Finally, there is Slev, the northernmost nation with a harsh cold climate. Its cities are rife with gangs and corruption. These four nations banded together, fighting their own gods, fighting the Wiccans, and ultimately winning. Now, for years, the section of the Oneric Isles known as Hollowshire remained independent and allied with the Wiccan Coven of the Worm. The Coven worships the god Peguth. However, following the God War and the battle Councillors of the Union winning the Isle 5 years prior to the prisoner's quest, Hollowshire has fallen into the Union's control. This isle forms the southernmost section of the Union. So that brings us to the factions of the Union. Guarding the Isle of Hollowshire and primarily its town is a standard Apostatic Union force. They have set up shop in the local town, much to the annoyance of the locals. Headed by a Union polymath, they are tasked with holding and rooting out any gods or Wiccans. Perhaps due to a manpower shortage, they've reached out to the local populace to help hunt down gods. The Apostatic Union claims they came in bringing law and order with them. However, the locals say they've brought nothing but a famine. The shipments have been delayed time and again, much to the annoyance of both parties. While at first the Union left the locals alone, the claims of Wiccan magic and god worship have led to crackdowns and raids. Next you have the Inquisition. No, not that Inquisition. Well, kind of that Inquisition. They're the more elite branch of the Union. While their more knightly compatriots can be seen holding the town and patrolling the wilds, the Inquisition is busy assaulting dangerous criminals, conducting raids against god worshippers, and Wiccan strongholds. Finally, there's Inquisitors called in to eliminate gods. The authority of an Inquisition operative is more than enough to execute any average citizen with the slightest accusation. The prisoner is recruited by them to serve as a last-ditch effort to track down the leader of the Dark Star mercenaries. It becomes evident upon visiting the Erudite Academy that there's some conflict between the scholars and the Inquisitors. This brings us to the final of the factions we know, the Erudite Academy. The Academy is 200 years old and predates the Apostatic Union by 150 years. Unlike the other universities that work within the Union, the Academy is not tied down to any one part of the Union. The island itself has the means to be sailed wherever the Academy is needed. This has allowed them to stay rather independent from everyone else. During the Wiccan dominance, the Academy was considered a fringe institute, and its ideals largely formed the basis for the Union's reason for fighting the God War. This fact has led to the Academy being gifted independence from the Union, resulting in more leeway and access to secretive projects. While the island can be piloted where it's needed most, it has been stationed above the Oneiric Isles for around a year by the time of the prisoner's quest. The tension between the Academy and the Inquisition comes from the simple fact they lack control. While academies at the heart of the Union can be observed and maintained, the Academy has too much freedom, and Ryova is known to waive restrictions. One last minor faction of the Apostatic Union is the Battle Councillors. Essentially, diplomacy is conducted in two stages. A combat round, seemingly done in the style of blunted steel, or perhaps wooden weapons, or maybe simply knocked to the death. And then a debate round. The Battle Councillors won control of Hallowshire in the first stage. Come the debate, so few of the Wiccan rabble could string together a sentence. The last detail of the Apostatic Union is their tolerance of noble families. All dynasties are respected enough to be left alone. However, their ancient ties to patron gods means the Union keeps a close eye on them. So this is the Apostatic Union, one of several factions in the bizarre world of Dread Delusion. Only time will tell if their zealous views and aggressive expansion will prove enough to maintain their grip on the Isle.